Welcome, travelers, to another episode of the Time Travel Trio podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Hyde.
And I'm Matt.
And we are the Time Travel Trio. I feel like we should say that together. You know? Like Gilmore Guys, I'm whatever, and we're the Gilmore Guys.
You can try it out.
I'm going to try it out right now.
All right.
Yeah. And we're
the Time Travel Trio.
That was smooth.
That was exciting.
We were coordinated like Minutemen.
So today, we have a new movie.
I do.
We do. What'd you pick?
It is about time that we did About Time.
Is it about time?
Yes.
About Time.
This is the second movie in the McAdams trilogy.
Sure is.
And
it's
if you
not
don't
that
know,
different than the first one.
if you don't know, Rachel McAdams has done 3 time travel movies where she does not time travel, but she is dating someone that does. I don't know, the third movie, does she date someone that...
She's married, but she's always in a relationship with someone who time travels.
Okay,
but
so
she cannot
someone...
time
And
travel.
she does not.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, either way, we already did the Time Traveler's Wife, and this is very similar to that, in that she is married to a time traveler. Yeah, I mean, this movie...
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
The description is, at the age of 21, Tim discovers he can travel in time and change what happens and has happened in his own life. His decision to make his world a better place by getting a girlfriend turns out not to be as easy as you might think. So this is directed by Richard Curtis, who also wrote it, starring Domhnall Gleeson from Star Wars, I guess now. Most people will recognize him from
Harry Potter too, right?
but he's not big in Harry Potter,
Okay.
so I wouldn't say
All right.
Harry Potter. I mean, he's in Harry Potter, but... and obviously Rachel McAdams and Bill Nighy. And Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
So...
Her authentically Australian self.
Basically playing
Yes.
herself.
Yes,
But,
we
you know,
yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, so... Matt, have you seen this before?
Nope. I knew of it when it came out. You know, I saw the trailer for it, but I had no interest in seeing it. Not for any real particular reason. I just didn't really jump out at me as something I want to see. And so, yeah, my first time seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
I had never seen it. I saw the trailers, and this was my first time ever checking out the film.
Yeah, me too. I saw the trailers. It seemed like a movie that I would go and see, but I didn't for some reason.
Yeah, time travel rom-com.
Yeah, it's very me, but I never saw it until this morning when I watched it for this. So let's play the trailer, and then we'll get into our initial reactions.
My name is Tim, and this is the year that would change my life forever. Happy New Year! Happy New Year! I just didn't know it yet.
Tim, my dear son, this is going to sound strange, but there's this family secret that the men in the family can travel in time.
This is such a weird joke.
It's not a joke,
If it's true, which it isn't,
although it is.
but if it was, which it's not,
Which it is.
how would I actually...
You go into a dark place, clench your fists, think of the moment you're going to, and you'll find yourself there.
It's going to be a complicated year.
It's going to be a complicated life.
For me, it was always going to be all about love. I'm Tim.
I'm Mary.
What's my mother's name?
I remind you of your mother?
Obviously, I should have thought this through more. Could you give me 1 second? I'm Tim.
I'm Mary.
I love your eyes.
Do you?
I love the rest of your face, too. Haven't even looked further down, but I'm sure it's all fantastic. I'm sure it'll be better next time.
Well done. Some people make a real mess of it the first time.
Amateurs. Some days you want to relive forever. Will you marry me?
I think I'll go for yes.
Some days you only want to live once.
I am so uninterested in a life without your father.
It never occurred to me that I might lose you.
I never said you could fix everything. Not without consequences.
It's so good to see you.
We've never met before.
Oh, no. What do I do?
You have to use it to make your life the way you want it to be.
I never know what the future holds, just like everyone else.
Time catches up to all of us, my son.
My dad. I try to live every day as if it was the final day of my extraordinary, ordinary life.
I hope I see you again.
You will. My whole life depends on it.
Before we even get into reactions, I have to comment on how misleading that is, that it looks like his dad dies in a car crash in that trailer.
I mean, that trailer is kind of boring, first of all, and
But
it
it's
also...
the entire movie.
It's the entire movie. It even has the whole point of the movie in the trailer.
Yeah,
You literally
he says
don't
his
have to
final
watch.
monologue.
You literally don't have to watch the movie.
If you haven't seen the movie, you just did.
Just watch the trailer and it's fine. Okay, so initial reactions. Hi, do you start?
I can definitely see. I mean, one, because I usually just don't go see romantic themed movies anyway, but this certainly wouldn't have gotten me interested. This was like very sold as like a genre film, and I don't know. It's just kind of dry, and it's I don't know. You see the concept, and you're like, that would be a lot cooler in a different movie, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, I'm probably going to compare it a lot to The Time Traveler's Wife, which I think we all kind of liked, right? Didn't we give it like 6 or 7s? Pretty much?
Comparatively, I would say I like Time Traveler's Wife more than this movie.
Yeah,
I agree.
In comparison, we'll probably say just because Time Traveler's Wife at least has I don't know
Drama?
the drama about it. Yeah, I mean,
Well, the stakes are much higher.
Yeah, the stakes are a lot higher.
I mean,
He's going to die, yeah, so
Yeah.
you care more.
Yeah, and we'll get into more about kind of this movie about time.
Yeah.
But just initially, I mean, it's funny. There's some funny parts. It's acted well. I mean, Rachel McAdams is good, and Domhnall Gleeson's good too, and Bill Nighy is always good. But I don't know, just the way that Rachel McAdams was in this movie wasn't as good as Time Traveler's Wife. She doesn't really have any agency in this movie. She just kind of is there.
Yeah, she's just a baby maker.
Yeah, she doesn't like have anything really that's going on with her.
Yeah.
She's just there.
Initially, when I first started watching this movie, I was like, oh, I like this. This is cute. I can't believe I didn't see this before. Like, I like British
it's
TV
very
film
British
and stuff like that. Yeah. So I enjoyed it at first, and then I kind of just got bored. I was painting during it, and I just, it didn't, I wasn't, like, unfocused, I guess.
All right.
I didn't feel like I should stop painting.
It became
because
video
I might
wallpaper, as they
miss
say.
the movie. Yeah, exactly. So, Rachel McAdams' character is a lot like her character in Time Traveler's Wife.
Yeah.
So much so that she also got proposed to in bed.
In bed, that's what I was
Again.
going to say.
Yeah.
Although in Time Traveler's Wife, she said no initially as a joke. This time she almost said no, but she said yes without saying
Basically
no.
the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And eerily is similar.
It's like the exact same scene.
It's almost like her character. It's like almost like her character from Time Traveler's Life is living in an alternate reality where she never meets Eric Bana,
Right.
but still meets another time traveler. Like,
Yeah.
because both movies have time travel as a genetic ability.
Which is
Yeah.
interesting.
So who knows?
I definitely, I mean, you can definitely see that the writer-director of About Time, Richard Curtis, was clearly inspired, at least to a certain point, by The Time Traveler's Wife, I would say. I mean, not completely, but I definitely think that it's, I mean, genetic time travel, Rachel McAdams, those are major
Yeah, and there's drama.
coincidences.
Right.
There's drama, quote unquote, with babies that are involved. It's way different in this
Yeah.
movie than Time Traveler's Wife.
Right.
But I mean, like that said, Rachel McAdams is great. Obviously,
She's great, yeah, no.
She's always
beyond our show,
charming.
beyond our show, please. But yeah, I don't know. She just wasn't used as well in this movie.
She's very relatable. Yeah, I wish that it's such a missed opportunity that they didn't explore her finding out that he's traveled in time and changed part of their past. It doesn't make sense to me, especially as a writer, that they wouldn't explore that storyline.
Right, eventually get to that point.
all.
Right.
And that's my biggest problem with the movie. It's really dishonest from Tim's perspective to not even consider telling her about this power that he has. And
Yeah.
and obviously the first time they meet is at this like darkness restaurant, and it's a good date for them. He actually wins her over there.
Yeah, which
But-
I like.
Which does change the tone of the movie.
That does, yeah.
Because Time Traveler's Wife, you feel like he just kind
It's
of
creepier.
It feels
It
like he
is
just
more creepy.
directs her to fall in love with her. While this one, there's a genuine attraction from the
Yeah.
onset.
And I like that he's so focused on looks. I feel like, not so focused, but it does feel like the girls he likes because of how they look,
Right.
at least up until that point. Like, yeah, Margot Robbie's cast for a reason,
Right.
honestly. and I'm not saying Rachel McAdams isn't pretty. Obviously, she's very beautiful.
Yeah,
But
seriously.
but I'm saying I like that they specifically had them meet the first time in the dark, so it's just personality for like 3 hours.
Right.
And then it's like awkward, and I like I think one thing that I really like about British TV and film is that they keep the awkwardness of human interaction.
Yes.
And this movie does a good job of it, but like kind of in general, because the cliche is that British people are more awkward. But I like it in this movie, like when they first see each other outside of the restaurant.
Yeah.
I like that uncomfortableness of, we just had this conversation and now I'm seeing what you look like and getting used to it, and
Right.
do you like how I look? Do I like how you look? And I like that they have that kind of uncomfortableness, and it felt very real.
Yeah, and so, I mean, but on that point, after that first date where it went well, he went back to help out his friend Robbie, who is basically the Dread Pirate Roberts, I feel like.
He's the worst. He plays Mr. Collins in Pride and Prejudice and Keira Knightley, which tells you... I mean, you guys probably aren't that familiar with Pride and Prejudice, but Mr. Collins is like the worst. He's the worst. He's this like creepy cousin guy that comes just to pick one of the daughters to marry
Ugh.
because someone tells him he needs to have a wife, and he's a pastor or a priest or something, or a parishioner or something like that. I don't know. And so he's like trying to just find, but he's so awkward and uncomfortable, and
It carries through this movie
his
still.
character, well, it's kind of different.
Okay.
In that movie, he's like gross.
Yeah.
In this movie, so I was like, I recognized him, and so I looked him up and realized that's what he's from, and then immediately I was like, oh god, I just hate you.
Yeah.
But because of that, so, but he also is a complete schmuck in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's a playwright. He has funny lines where he's just like, his first line in the movie is like, "Who the fuck are you?" or something like that to Tim's character.
Right.
Yeah.
He's very vulgar, and he has some funny lines. He's like, "I'll see you tomorrow. I might kill you." That's what it reminded me of.
It just felt too much to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I didn't find it comical. I found it over the top and like
I wonder if
unnecessary.
Richard Curtis had like bad experiences with playwrights.
It seemed like it, right?
Right?
He just, or I thought that maybe Tim would. I don't know. It was weird the things that they chose for Tim to go back in time to fix and things they didn't. Like,
Yeah.
I would have thought that because he got off on such a terrible foot with Harry, was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Harry, that he would go back in time and like wait and come back later because he was like, you interrupted me for the most brilliant idea and I don't remember it.
Mm.
So
he wasn't a pretty lady, so what does Tim care?
exactly.
That's
Which
true.
which is something I really didn't like about Tim's character, that he cared more about, well, sometimes he cared more about falling in love and finding romance than the important things. But he does help his sister, but then he doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah, he does and doesn't. And we'll get into more why. But so on the note of like them meeting, he then goes back to help out Harry, and so which leads them to not have the first date in the Darkness restaurant.
Right.
So now he has to find a way to meet Rachel McAdams again.
And the Kate Moss.
Yeah, at the whole
Of
Kate
course.
Moss thing.
Of course, because it's a British movie.
But
Yeah,
but
right?
now
It's
but
ridiculous.
yeah, but now it's like it's dishonest. Now he's engineering their relationship at that point.
So
And
then
so
it is like Time Traveler's Wife.
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. But in that movie, at least Rachel McAdams was a kid at that point, and so her life up to that point of meeting him as an adult, she had some control over it at least.
So
This movie, she's just a puppet to his manipulations to have them be together.
yeah, it's not fair. Like
It isn't fair.
it's not fair for her that she can't date that other guy because he wants to date her first.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's weird. It is a little strange. I also think, it's both Time Traveler's Life and About Time has some creepy moments from like the love interest. I guess if I'm going to give Eric Bana one thing, he does tell her the rules and the layout and like what the deal is early on.
Yeah,
Like,
but he's also a victim in that movie. He can't control it.
right.
It's
That's true. That's a very good point.
He
Eric Bana
doesn't-
cannot control
he
it.
doesn't have a choice of
Right.
telling her. He tells her before he tells her. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because
Right.
he goes back in time and tells her when she's a little kid.
Right.
But yeah. So my issue, I have issues. I have a lot of issues. But I didn't understand. So I think we need to start talking about the rules.
Yeah.
Because there's no duplication. Fine. If that's your rule, that's your rule. Okay. Whether it makes sense or not. But there's also the rule that you can only go to the past and you can only go to places where you actually were in your own life.
Right, places you remember. We actually have a clip of Bill Nighy explaining this to Tim for the first time on his 21st birthday, or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So this is his dad explaining to him his power.
Tim, my dear son, The simple fact is the men in this family have always had the ability to, this is going to sound strange, be prepared for strangeness, get ready for spooky time. But there's this family secret, and the secret is that the men in the family can travel in time. Well, more accurately, travel back in time. We can't travel into the future.
This is such a weird joke.
It's seriously not a joke.
So you're saying that you and Grandad and his brothers could all travel back in time?
Absolutely.
And you still do?
Absolutely. Although it's not as dramatic as it sounds. It's only in my own life. I can only go to places where I actually was and can remember. I can't kill Hitler or shag Helen of Troy, unfortunately.
Okay, stop. If it's true, which it isn't.
Although it is.
Although it isn't, obviously. But if it was, which it's not.
Which it is.
Which it isn't. But if it was, how would I actually...
The how is the easy bit, in fact. You go into a dark place. Big cupboards are very useful generally. Toilets at a pinch. Then you clench your fists like this. Think of the moment you're going to, and you'll find yourself there. After a bit of a stumble and a rumble and a tumble.
Wow.
Very British scene.
It's very British. So I wanted to talk about it because you can only go to places where you actually were in your own life. So you can't go to new places.
Yeah, you can't. I guess you can't teleport, but you kind of. I don't know.
So
Yeah,
then
it
how
has to
can
be
you
like you can only go to, I guess, like if you were on 5th and 7th, like the day before, you can go to 5th and 7th, but I guess you can't go to 6th and Main.
So how can he go to the play?
Well, I think he time traveled to the point when he was at his apartment before the play happened.
Right. I think he just chose
And
where
then
to go.
chose a different path?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you can only go to your point of origin has to be a place you have been.
Yeah, in this movie,
Okay.
he time travels a lot, but they kind of they don't show him all the time. Like it makes a sound effect and he shows him doing the scene again, but we imagine that he went back in time and lived that day over again to that certain point. I think, right?
Right.
Up until he leaves again?
Yeah, like for his he gets married to Rachel McAdams, obviously, and he chooses a different best man like 4 times. So does he travel back to the point where he made the choice and then back to the future, or does he live out the entire time up to that point to
I don't
where his
know.
wedding is?
I have no idea.
Yeah, because we don't... It's kind of like Minutemen. We don't really see him go back to his present day.
Right. It's mostly for comical effect sometimes, where it's like, oh, let's see the scene again in a different way with a different joke in there.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also like begs a question, like what happens to his past self? Like, does he, like, let's say he goes back to the past and goes back to the future, that like week that he changed, was his past self on autopilot like in Click, or is he gonna like know that he did this thing?
I wouldn't say it's like Click. I don't know, because he still experienced it at one point.
Right.
It just is a different experience now, but that doesn't mean that he's necessarily on autopilot just because the events changed.
Yeah.
Because he remembers what changed.
Yeah, he does. There's a scene where he takes his sister back, which is a whole other plot hole.
No.
But she, as soon as she gets back to the future or present day,
She
she remembers.
immediately knows.
Yeah, she immediately knows what happened.
What happened and who she is in love with now.
Yeah, which
So,
Right.
is, I guess that's part of the rules too. You
Yeah.
remember the changes when you get back to the present day.
Yeah. Which, okay, that's fine. He kind of like dismisses what he calls the butterfly thing,
Yeah,
which I don't like that they are making the choice to not talk about real consequences
Right.
other than your own life consequences, like extended consequences like Men in Black.
Right.
I don't like that you can just say, we don't worry about the butterfly thing, we just focus on us and then it's fine.
Yeah, it's an overly romantic view of time travel.
It's a very selfish
But-
version of time travel.
Yeah.
it's an abuse, really. If
Yeah,
anything.
true. Yeah, it is.
Here's a little instance that I want to bring up. So the first time he meets Rachel McAdams, it's good. Then he goes back a week, I guess, to the point where she met this other guy that she met. I guess when he wasn't there for the Darkness dinner, I think that was the night where she decided to be that person's boyfriend or girlfriend, I guess. Because in the original date, she already met that guy, but she didn't seem that committed to him. So
Yeah.
maybe that night went horribly for her, or she didn't meet anyone that was good enough, and so she decided to be with that guy then.
Yeah, I mean, I bought that because if you know someone for just a couple days, it's not like immediately you know for sure
Right.
that that's
Right.
the person after a little bit of time. Yeah, and if you don't meet anyone else who makes you question it, then I definitely buy that she
I buy that
knew
too.
the whatever his name was before the Darkness date.
Yeah, the other guy.
And then she met Tim, and, she can make up her own mind who she wants to date.
Yeah,
Right.
but so then he went back a week to when he actually met her at the party instead of the other guy, and then he lived from that point forward, right? He didn't go
Yeah.
back to the present at that point. So did he still go to the play to save? I mean, obviously he did
Yeah.
because he succeeded, but we didn't see that. Like, he didn't live
Well, we
those
don't
days
see-
over again.
We don't see every single day after the party.
Yeah, but
Right.
he has to actually remember to do these things, though. Like he has to say, "Oh,
I think he remembers. He's selfish enough to only want to find a girlfriend, so
That's true.
That's true.
he cares enough about himself to do that, I think.
I think that's probably where it gets like a little strange. It's just that there's I think it gets strange because he's doing all these things and he's changing all these people's like lives, and yes, there is a little bit of a cushion with the fact that she genuinely likes him before he starts messing with things.
Yes.
Which is key.
Yeah.
But there's also, and I do like the scene they have when he's talking to Margot Robbie's character, Charlotte, and he asks her out on the last day of, which is weird. Why would you do that? But
Yeah.
he asks her on the last day, and then she tells him, as anyone would tell, whether she liked him or not, why would you tell me this on the last day? So then he goes back to like the middle of
Yeah.
like her stay there, and then he's like,
yeah.
hey, I like you. And she's like, oh, you should have told me this. And so he realizes that Margot Robbie's character just does not like him.
Yeah.
And like he has done nothing to make her like him. But that's also, the movie breaks this. This is what really got me intrigued by the movie. And then also what made me get a little frustrated later on. The movie seems to build up this idea that you cannot make someone fall in love with you. Kind of like, not that these are like the greatest examples of like storytelling necessarily, but like take this movie like Bruce Almighty. It makes it very clear that the rule that even though you were God, you cannot make someone fall in love with you. Like
Yes.
it's a rule.
They even have the line, I put this quote down, all the time travel in the world won't make someone love you.
Right, which I thought was very nice. And I thought that meant, okay, so this, no matter what happens, she either loves him or doesn't. Then, later on, in the scene that you're talking about, Matt, it seems like he does make her love him by the way he's able. I guess I just didn't like the fact that it seemed to make, though to a certain degree I do think this is true, I just don't like the fact that it basically says, women will only like you if everything can be designed exactly perfectly by this, like, I feel like so many men fall into like this trap of like, there's like some sort of like cheat code or like sequence you have to hit for a woman to like you, and really it's not in that kind of way. It's like either she likes you or doesn't, or she's interested and she does, if she's not interested, and then how you interact will decide it. It's not based on like, but if I don't meet her at this place at this time, and if I don't order the cheesy bread, she will not like me. When I ordered the cheesy bread, she fell in love. When I ordered the pasta, she hated me.
Yeah, I mean, girls don't have sex with you as a reward for you being good to them. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I did what you wanted me to do. Now give me sex. Like, you have to. They're like people. You can't just say, oh, you're not a lesbian. Haha, just kidding. That's not the right thing to say. Let me go back and say it differently.
Right. Yeah, you have my mother's name. Like, I mean, though that is a mood killer. But that being said, it's like, it's not like, oh, I have to press these buttons the right way, and then she'll be like, open the gates, so to speak, and like we get to have sex.
Yeah, it's unreasonable.
But even on that note, when he went back to Margot Robbie, well, when they met again in the future or whatever later on, she offers to basically have sex with him. He's like outside of her room, and he says like, no, I have to go and propose to my actual girlfriend. Why would he go that far with it just to say that he could? I mean, like, was he gonna cheat on her at that point? He didn't kiss her, but he went on a date with her and made sure that it went well. And they basically said, "Okay, cool. I could have had sex with her if I wanted to, but I didn't."
Yeah, the ego of like, I could have.
It's back to Tim's selfishness. Tim is a very selfish character, and I think it was so like, oh my gosh, now I want to see if things are different, if I can get her now, just to know whether or not it was that time, if she's different now, if I'm different now, to know whether or not for sure.
Yeah.
And apparently, it's Margot Robbie's character is just, I don't even know. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I don't like that she still I would have liked if he maybe tried to kiss her and then she rejected him
Yes.
and then he realized his mistake and then he went back to Rachel McAdams. Hopefully not to propose, but like I would have
Learn
liked
this.
the consistency in Margot Robbie's character.
Yeah, it would have stuck to the point of you can't make someone love you.
Right.
Yeah.
That basically just contradicted it with her being like, okay, I guess I can like this guy.
Yeah, because he did really well on this date. I
And-
thought it would have been really
yeah.
better if they go on, not necessarily a quote-unquote date, but they hang out, and she tells him maybe something like, you're a lot more confident now, or, you seem like you got together. She doesn't have an attraction to him, but it's something like where it could have been a great moment for the movie's tone and for her character and for his character, for her to be like, you're different now. I still don't like you, like in that
Yeah.
sense, but you know what? You're definitely like, I can see that like something's changed, and then maybe he talks about why he likes Rachel McAdams so much, and then like which is
And it goes back and proposes to her.
right.
Realizes he
Yes.
loves
That would have
her so
been
much.
great. That would
Yeah.
have been it would fit more with the tone of the movie, I
Yeah.
think, because
Yeah.
the movie does have a much more almost exceedingly everything is lovely tone, and to have that scene, it felt more like wish fulfillment than it did
Yeah.
a real moment.
It
Yeah.
made me dislike Tim's character a lot more. Like,
Mhm.
I don't like him that much. He's kind of funny and charming, but he's very selfish. And this made me be like, oh, I don't like him I don't like him as much as I did before. Which
and
is,
you lose respect for the Margot Robbie character.
Yeah.
yeah,
Of course, Tim makes the comment after he first learns about time travel, like, don't you want money? Or, like, why wouldn't I go and, win the lottery or whatever?
True.
And, get all this money. And his dad is like, money won't make you happy.
yeah. Your uncles tried it and they
Yeah.
had horrible lives and they weren't
Like,
happy.
I guess he implies that it creates negative consequences if you use your power for that. So instead, they just want the powers that be just want you to use your time travel power so you can be selfish in love in your life instead of helping the world, the greater good, with an ability that you easily could use to help people.
Yeah, be a superhero.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he has a power to basically rule the world if you do it well,
To rule the world,
or to save lives, or
to
to do
save
anything.
lives.
important.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like how Bill, his dad's character, used it just to read all the books. Like that's a good.
Yeah.
It's still selfish, but it's not egregiously selfish. It's like, I have this power. Let me enrich my life by reading everything I can possibly do.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't like. I want to talk about the sexism of this movie because
we've been circling around it.
we've been
for a while.
circling around it, but I think it's a sexist movie, and I'm going to just put that on the table
Yeah.
because only the men in the family have this ability. That's complete bullshit. The sister easily could have this ability. There's absolutely no logical reason that I can see that just the men are able to travel through time,
Yeah.
Right.
and that the women can't experience it except for his sister, which
breaks
ends
the
up
rules.
creating negative consequences, and he goes back and makes it so she doesn't even do it in
Right.
the first place.
Yeah.
Why?
By the way, the reason she has such a bad life because she has a bad boyfriend.
Because she has a bad boyfriend. Exactly. She should have a nice boyfriend, like the
More-
kind of guy
yeah.
that Tim is. or,
Right.
She should settle for a boring
a
guy.
nice, boring guy. Yeah.
That way she won't be in a car accident.
It was very apparent to me. Did you guys feel that it was
Yeah.
kind of sexist in that
Well,
way?
Yeah, and I didn't feel that way until about probably like near the end of the second act. That's when I started to feel like this movie's really sexist. Because again, the movie starts off with that Margot Robbie scene really got me hooked into the movie because I was like, oh, look at that! Like might be a very different romance movie.
Yeah.
And then by the time I actually even kind of wasn't even super like put off by the fact that he prevented her from meeting the other guy because I think if all of us are honest, if it came down between you and another person, like for the person you really liked, you would find. I mean, we do it without having time travel. Imagine if we
Yeah.
did have time travel.
That's true.
Plus,
You know?
plus the other guy was a douchebag, so
Right.
obviously he should have done that. But
Right, and
Yeah.
Tim's 21 or
Yeah.
like 22. It's like he's not going to be thinking like that
Yeah, that's
maturely. So like I was okay with that. But once it got to the point, the movie really fell apart to me. Once it got to the point where Margot Robbie offers him sex, basically, because I'm like, first of all, no woman who looks like Margot Robbie is going to offer Domhnall Gleeson. No offense, Domhnall Gleeson, he's actually grown to be quite an attractive, strapping man. But I just don't see Margot Robbie being like, yeah, let's just do it. Like, what?
Yeah, she like in this movie and in Wolf of Wall Street, she's like the most beautiful woman ever. Like
in any movie.
Yeah, she's
in
insanely...
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. She's also clearly the prettiest person that they cast in that movie.
Right.
But anyway, I agree. I think that it's ridiculous to believe that Margot Robbie's character would ever offer him sex. And I think it would have been better if Margot Robbie did turn out to be a lesbian, but it wasn't necessarily like... I don't know. I think it would have given Tim an excuse to feel better about himself, but I also think it would have been interesting rather than her agreeing to offer him sex like a prostitute.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't like that at halfway through the movie, all Rachel McAdams' character was good for was literally making babies.
Right. So he
nothing else.
So he
Does she work? Does she ever have a job?
I don't know.
Well, she had that writing manuscript
yeah.
thing that was an issue in one scene that went away.
Right. She has a lot of dresses, so there's money somewhere.
Yeah, she had a lot of dresses.
We should talk about the dress scene, which was so obnoxiously long. Like, it made me not like her character because she's so annoying. I'm like, you just pick a dress. They all look the same.
You all look. First of all, as a guy, let me just say this to any men who are listening to this podcast who are possibly single or just started relationships. When a woman comes out in the dress, guys, it's the 21st century. Read up on fashion trends. Read up on what looks good. Know what your woman looks good in. So when she comes out in a dress, you can honestly say, I know, you're like, she comes out in a dress, if she doesn't look good in that, like, why don't you read the blue? It brings out your eyes. I don't know what it is, but you need to know more than Tim knows in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah, or at least act like you know more. Don't just say,
true.
you look good. You look good.
True.
You look good.
Yeah, it's
you look
literally
good.
the most obnoxious thing in the world when you, especially as a woman, if you're asking someone's opinion about what you're wearing or how your hair looks or whatever it is, and they're like, yeah, it's good, it's great, you look fine. It's like, no, I want to know what you think, not what you think I want to hear.
Yeah, don't validate me. Give me
Yeah.
an actual opinion.
I'm not know the difference between if you're with someone who fishes for compliments, then that's a really annoying habit and you should probably not be with that person or at least help them to overcome that. But like a genuine person doesn't, hopefully, like I don't think I'm someone who fishes for compliments that way, and neither is Rachel McAdams in this movie. So like just let her wear whatever she wants to, like, oh god, it just drove me crazy. It was way too long.
It was just for her to wear a dress to meet a client, I guess. So it wasn't even for that big of a deal. But it led to this important scene, I think, when he realizes his child messed with the thing that she needed. It ruined the manuscript she needed to meet this person. Mm-hmm. And so there's a moment where she closed the door and he couldn't leave the door to go back in time to fix it. And so he had to face the choice he made, and he had to face his mistake.
Yeah.
But it lasted for a minute, and this dressing was 3 minutes long. And so the weight wasn't there for him to actually settle with the mistake he made. He was like,
did that ever
let me
get
leave,
resolved?
let me leave.
Did he eventually just go back in time?
No, because they got the call that his dad was going to have cancer.
Oh,
and so they just left.
Huh. Yeah, that's true.
And they never really brought up her job ever again.
Yeah.
Maybe she got fired.
She might have gotten
Yeah,
fired.
maybe.
And he's like, well, I wanted a daughter anyway, so you're going to just pop them out until we get one.
Keep going until we're done.
Until we get those 2 X chromosomes in there.
Yeah. So this is another big part of the rules, too. Speaking of kids, if you travel back before your child was born, the sperm is different, and your child becomes different.
Because if you change something.
If you change something.
Right.
Because at one point, so she gets pregnant, and they have a kid. It's a child. It's obviously a child. It's a girl named Posey. And then he went back in time to, was that when he helped his sister out?
Yes.
So he went way back to the first scene of the movie with the
New Year's kiss.
The New Year's kiss scene. And he basically set up her life to be good again.
He stopped his sister from getting, that was when she initially got with the crappy guy that she's been with for a long time. So he stopped that from happening by taking his sister with him in time.
Which we're going to do it after this child thing, because that's a whole other breach of the rules. But when he comes back, his child is now a boy.
Anyway, so he changed a big event in his
Right.
family's life that in some way affected him
His
giving
sperm.
that particular sperm to her at that time. So they had
Which
they
makes
had a
makes
different
sense.
kid.
Yeah.
I actually think that made sense because statistically speaking, when you think about how many sperm
Yeah.
there are, just that sounds weird to say, but just it'd be like that. Also, that one particular sperm is not going to make it this time. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's a different one.
it's
Yeah.
a different one.
So I guess on that note, is it just big changes that mess with your sperm? Because he does go back before his children were born again with his dad to hang out with his dad when he's playing ping pong and when he's even younger as a kid.
Well, if
Right.
it's before his. Oh, you mean like at the end? Of the
Yeah,
movie?
at the end, because he still goes back before they were born and they weren't changed.
But
They didn't change anything. They just
Okay,
relived
so
their
they screwed
memory.
up. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they were very specific about saying that too. He and his dad were. His dad
Like
said,
big
"Oh, I want to
things.
do this." No, his dad said that. "Oh, I want to do this, but it's tricky. We just have to be really careful to not change anything."
Okay.
He says
So
that.
it just
at the end.
changes.
So
Okay,
they just, yeah.
that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, but so basically, the drama with this whole rule is that his dad has cancer, and his wife, Rachel McAdams, wants to have a third kid, and that's after his dad died. So he can no longer go back to visit his dad
Or
because
else, when he goes back to his present, the third kid will be a different kid.
right.
Right.
So that's kind of a moral thing that Tim has to live with is, do I now give up the chance to see my dad again? So I think he goes back one more time to that whole thing.
And that's
where
when they do that
Right.
memory without changing anything. But I think I like it, but I also think that
I mean, it's sweet, obviously.
it's weird though to think about. I was just trying to picture how it would feel if all of a sudden you went back from being in time and you'd a completely different child.
Mm.
It would be such a strange feeling. So, like, I get it.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. He picks up his kid's like, this isn't my kid. Who is this kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, so that's another rule they bring in there. But this is the rule I want to get into too: is the bringing his sister along
Mhm.
for time traveling. Jen, you had some issue with that too, right?
Yeah, because even just on the sexist theme again, why was his sister the only one who was allowed to know?
Yeah, and how does it physically make sense with the way? Because the way that time travel works, I think, is that it's your consciousness goes back to your past body because you're
Yes.
wearing the same clothes you were at the time.
Mhm.
You know, you're the same age because you go
Yeah,
back
it's
as
like
a kid.
X-Men.
Yeah, it's like X-Men,
Yeah.
Days of Future Past, where your
Mhm.
mind gets sent back to your body.
Yeah.
And now, if you hold your sister's hands, she suddenly is there with you too. Like she's now included in this. Your mind going back in time, like just in laws of physics, quote unquote, of this movie. How does that make sense?
Right.
How does touching her make her go back?
No, it didn't make any sense. Actually, when that happens, can I be completely honest? I thought it was like a plot twist that his sister could do it too.
Yeah, I thought that too because genetically, maybe she also had it and they just didn't know because they just assumed it was
Well-
always the men because they're all really sexist.
Right, like that's what I'm saying. Well, it doesn't make sense that it would only be the men because the men are the ones who assign gender and all these like tons of traits come from the father. So it doesn't make sense that like it just doesn't make sense that there wouldn't be a woman with that power. And I thought that was gonna be like a great twist. Like none of the women ever found out that they had it, but like maybe she's the first, or maybe she's the first to ever really find out she has.
Maybe
Time travel.
maybe it is and they just didn't talk about it. You know,
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
that is what it is.
Yeah,
And so it was just, I just thought that was really strange when they didn't do anything else with that. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the case, like for me, I think if I had this power that he had, like Jen, if I found out tomorrow I had this power, I'm going to take it with me every single time. Like, just tell Rachel McAdams, and you guys can have infinitely long vacations, and like have a 1-day vacation that you just relive over and over again.
Yeah.
Like that would be such a great thing to do with someone else if you can just hold their hands and take them with you.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Tim is selfish. He didn't even, that we could see in this movie, he didn't even consider telling Rachel McAdams.
Yeah.
Because, I guess, because his dad said he would never tell his mom. But his mom is definitely not the type of person who would keep a secret, maybe. But Rachel McAdams would. They don't have any other friends. Literally
Yeah.
just them. He has his obnoxious guy friends who are
Right.
the worst, but...
Who
Right.
mostly aren't even good best men, so they're not even his good friends. Like for the wedding, he actually had his dad be the final best man, which makes sense. But like his other friends are not that good of friends. or even good people, I guess.
Maybe he spent too much time building a relationship with Rachel McAdams and not his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that the blonde girl that he kissed on New Year's would end up being like one of his friends.
Yeah, she
Didn't
seemed
it
like a
seem
fun.
like it?
Yeah.
Like she was a friend that they had this thing and then nothing ever really happened and they were
Right.
just friends for a long time. But
I don't know.
his
I
only
mean,
female friend is his sister.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just strange. Though I will say, whenever I don't really relate too much to the Tim character. I understand his awkwardness, and definitely in high school I was very awkward with women. I mean, I used to fist bump women that I had a crush on. So I understand the handshake thing instead of like the kiss.
That's fine.
I'm also not a very physically intimate person.
Really?
Like I'm not like a giant like hugger or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's just not in my personality.
Mhm.
But that being said, I'm like, yeah, I mean I got over that when I was like 18, 19.
Yeah.
You know?
Plus, it's like New Year's. Just kiss.
Right.
She's obviously the person you're going to kiss. She's with you the entire night.
Even just on the cheek is better than shaking hands.
Yeah.
But did you relate to the Tim character?
Not really. I mean,
He's kind of everyman, but he's also kind of annoyingly only about romance and nothing else.
well, that's the
matters.
thing. Like, he's funny. Like, his lines are kind of, quirky and funny, and, he has some moments, but I just dislike him because of the choices he makes. Like, he's so
Yeah.
selfish,
Yeah.
Right.
and I don't know. That took me out of the movie a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing him do these things that, like, just tell Rachel McAdams. Like, he didn't even consider that. It wasn't even a choice. Or he didn't even, like, think, oh, I should tell her. He's just like, you know what? I'm done with it. I'm just going to live my life and not even tell her that I ever
Yeah.
did this thing.
At the end, he has this monologue voiceover that he says he barely even travels through time anymore and
Right.
doesn't really even use it. So I'm like, what a waste!
Yeah.
You're a
Big
waste.
Yeah, big
I
waste.
did love the soundtrack though. There's
Yeah.
a lot of throwback tracks.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah, I
some
wrote that down.
Smiths. There was some Ben Folds. It was like
the
my
Killers
iPod. There's
tattoo
some
was on there
Yeah.
on the New Year's party.
It was like my
Surprising-
iPod was playing. It was great.
Surprisingly, no real BB King, despite this father saying he loves
Yeah.
BB King.
They
Like
should have. Yeah.
enough to say that it's like one of the only three men he's ever loved is BB King.
Yeah.
His father, his son, and then BB King. But yet no BB King music.
Yeah, it was
Like,
weird.
Could the guy get the rights?
Yeah,
not.
probably not.
Yeah.
Uh,
So obviously, there's not really any scientific accuracy to genetic time travel.
no, I mean we've touched on these higher dimensional beings before in other movies like Men in Black 3,
Yeah.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Mhm.
This movie doesn't really quite merit that much kind of scrutiny, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess he's a fifth dimensional being. We're technically fourth dimensional beings because we experience 4 dimensions, time being one of them. He's fifth, but he can control the 4th dimension. It's like being on a sphere if you're a 2-dimensional being.
Okay.
It's 3 dimensions, but you can only move in the X and Y plane.
Mm.
We move through 4 of them, but we can only actually control 3 of them.
Okay.
So I guess in that sense, he's a higher dimensional being.
Mhm.
But the way that they portray it, and he can hold the hands of his sister and travel through time, there's no real any scientific merit to any of this stuff.
Yeah, I do like that it's genetically passed down, but
Right.
it definitely doesn't make sense that it's just the men. So,
Yeah.
whatever. Obviously, it's relevant to this story. It is the story, but it's also at a certain point kind of not anymore. It
It's
kind of
really boring
falls away.
at the end.
It
Yeah.
starts to get boring. I
It
felt
does.
a little bit bored in this movie because they didn't build up enough romance of him trying to get Rachel McAdams. That didn't last that long till they were together. And then with his dad, that wasn't really until the end. So it's not like there wasn't enough core drama throughout the story about Tim's character, because we kind of see pretty early on who he is as a person. So I guess I just felt a lack of like a cohesive story. It kind of, it makes sense that this director also did, something like Love Actually, which everyone remembers fondly, but is actually largely a very depressing movie.
It's a very depressing movie.
And they're small separate stories, which is what this is, but it just happens to be with the same person.
Yeah, and like the romance wasn't as important as Time Traveler's Wife. I didn't care in this movie.
It wasn't interesting. I like romance a lot, and it wasn't enough for me to feel any drama.
There was no drama.
Really, not even a lot of chemistry. I didn't feel like they were, great together.
Like in at least Time Traveler's Wife, there's parts where you're like, oh, they might not be able to be together anymore. But
Yeah.
then, like, because there's, like, she's mad at him. In this movie, it's like he makes them meet each other for the first time successfully, and then after that, that's it.
Yeah.
They're together.
Right. And, I mean, Time Traveler's Wife is a movie where they are usually not happy while they're with each other.
But it makes it more interesting.
Yeah,
because you want
there's
them to be
drama.
together.
Right. And you know, like, there's a love between them. So
Yeah.
you feel bad for them because they're so miserable. In this one, I don't know. I felt like they were, like, almost they felt more like roommates than...
Yeah.
like, roommates that... something really crazy happened one night and she ended up pregnant. Like, he's like, hey,
Yeah.
what's up? What's going on?
I thought it was really unnecessary also for her to be pregnant when they were engaged.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
felt like that was unnecessary. I didn't really see where that needed to be.
My only guess as to why she got pregnant when they got engaged, it was to push forward them getting married. Because I think otherwise they probably would have dated for a few more years. So maybe her getting... I will say there is one really good scene I like that actually got me to laugh out loud is when he first meets the parents and he's in the house and they live together.
Yeah.
And he comes up and he's like, are we living together? He's like, no, we don't live together. Are we having sex? Yes or no? Or he's like, I don't know when that would come up. And I was like, oh, this is pretty funny. It was actually it was very like, almost like Jerry Seinfeld-esque kind of scene.
It was, good humor.
And then the parents come up, she immediately tells them that they live together, and then he's like, yeah, but no oral. And I thought that was actually really funny.
Yeah, it was
well,
funny.
well, that's the one thing about the time travel that I did like is that they use it for a comedic effect. Like you see the same scene over and over again because he's time traveling in a different way. It makes it, it's funny. You see different takes. You see different reactions.
Was there anything about the clothes or the sets that you guys noticed?
Other than that dress scene.
Her red wedding dress, I guess. It's on the poster.
Yeah, I mean, she's not a virgin, so she didn't even try to
Yeah.
She didn't try to sell that lie. She was like,
right.
no, nah, man.
She's pregnant, so there you go.
There you go.
His house was beautiful, though.
The parents'
His
house?
parents' house, yeah.
Yeah.
It
I
was
mean, no
really
need to
nice.
really get money when you already live on the beach.
I know, right? I would just live there forever. Cool. Any other stray observations you guys noticed that we haven't touched on? I didn't really take a ton of notes, and we've talked about everything that I had.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, I didn't feel it. With Time Traveler's Wife, by the end of it, you're, crying because it's so, emotional. But, this movie, I mean, I got emotional because of, the dad stuff. But, the love stuff, it didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, there's really nothing else to say.
Cool. So, let's do our... Okay, would you want to experience
yes, I want to bring this up, too.
this time travel? Did you want to start?
Yeah, I would want his power, because I think it'd be a fun power to have. Especially because you can hold someone's hand and take them back with you. Like, Jen, imagine we can go to Disney World and be there, for a Saturday, and be there for, a month, you know?
Ride every ride.
Yeah, you can just be there for as long as you want to be. So to have this power would be cool. There's no real big consequences unless you do something dumb with it,
Yeah.
You can go back and relive an experience and not have that big of a butterfly effect. It seems like.
I agree. I would want to experience this time travel, but not necessarily his life.
Well, for sure, I would do it way different than he did it, but I want his power.
Yeah, his power, but not his life because it's just not an interesting story.
No, I wouldn't. If I could just have the power and have it in my own life, for sure. I don't think I would want to. As on paper, as nice as it sounds to be a kid again and hang out with your dad, I just don't. I can't see myself wanting to do that. Me and my dad are. I just am one of those people who's what happened, and I wouldn't be the same person.
Yeah, me too.
And it's what the stuff that I did with my family, my great friends, that's in the past. There are maybe a few things that I would want to change, but so much time has passed now since some of those things that I would change that I'm worried that if I went back and changed it, it would cause some major problems.
Yeah.
But I would like the power. Just go back to a day.
Yeah, for me, it'd just be a day, or a week at most, maybe. But it would be a really short kind of time frame. I definitely would not go back years, especially when it's when my wife or whatever is at stake.
Yes. No. I totally agree with you. If someone I knew right now got hurt, or something really bad happened, I missed a meeting or something like that, I would definitely go back and fix things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Little stuff is cool. So let's do final reviews. Hi, do you want to start?
I think as a movie, I'm going to give this I like the acting. I mean, I like the performances. The leads are all strong actors, but like you said, I like how you describe it very much like Love Actually. It's like vignettes. As a whole strung together movie, it doesn't work, but the little scenes do work, usually. You just feel like they're part of like a movie that was somehow supposed to be better, but isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but I'll still be, it's decent cinematography, decent sets. So I'll give the movie itself like a 4.5. Like, it's boring, which is actually probably, I wish they had gone for it a little bit more. And the third act really is like, it feels like a chore once you get to that
Yeah,
last
it's all
30 minutes.
morality.
Like, I remember, I felt my hand hovering on like let me just skip past this on my mouse, but I didn't. I felt the urge. So 4.5 is the film.
I agree with you. I'll give it in the same range, 4 to 5. Yeah, I'll say 4.5 as well. It's kind of boring. I had some problems with the way that they use Rachel McAdams in this movie. I mean, we all love her, obviously, and I wish she was more than just a baby maker in this movie. It has some funny moments in it. I just didn't like the choices Tim made a lot. I mean, he made some dumb choices, and I don't know. It just felt like underused and pretty boring. So 4.5 as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to give it 5 out of 10. It gets boring, honestly. That's pretty much you guys kind of said everything. So, time travel rating, Hyde, what would you give it?
At the beginning of this movie, I would have given it actually a fairly high number, probably like a 6. By the end, there are so many plot holes. I have to give it a 3. The time travel itself is a very cool idea, but it breaks all of its own rules. And I just feel like in a movie this contained, where not even a lot happens, the fact that they couldn't even hold together these very simple rules is kind of like disappointing. So I have to give it a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to go even lower and give it a 2 for the same reasons, but I feel it's even more egregious. They broke their own rules. They just carried along his sister because he can do that now, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't tell anyone about it except for his dad. I mean, come on, don't waste it.
Yeah.
It was just there to serve the morality of the movie, which is live every day and appreciate it every day as if it's, I don't know, your last. Not even that, but it's like appreciate every day. That's the point of the movie. And it was just there just to do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was underused and, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 also. I like the genetic trait of it, but the rules that they created, there were too many problems with, and they had too many plot holes that really doesn't deserve much higher than that. So, with that, the Rotten Tomatoes rating was very high, 70%, which I think we all looked at before and agreed that
critics.
It was very high for this movie. The critics' consensus was beautifully filmed and unabashedly sincere. About Time finds director Richard Curtis at his most sentimental. I guess, but
81% of the audience liked it too, so we're in the minority here.
Well, that makes sense because the audience that wants to see the movie are looking for a romantic movie, which I don't think it's a good one, but still, it's
I just don't like this movie. So before we get into what our next episode will be, we'll do some social media stuff. Someone on Instagram, JB Washington Art, asked us a few questions actually, but I'm just going to pick one for us to discuss. If you were able to travel to the future, would you even be there because you left your original timeline and basically disappeared, so wouldn't the future be a future without you? So I guess he's kind of asking if I traveled to 2030, would I be there because I had left 2016? So would there be 2 of me? How would that work, I think is his question.
Yeah, I think this, it depends on how you want to view timelines. Let's say there's only one timeline and you leave your present and you go to the future and you stay there. I think it would have been like in a time machine where everyone presumed you were missing and dead or just disappeared.
Yeah.
However, if at some point you go back to the past from 2030, if it's one timeline, I think it'd be cool is if in 2030 you see, in 2020 I did this, but I didn't do that yet. And then at some point you go back to the past and then do that again. So you kind of see your future by being in the future, but you did that in the past from when you saw it.
Yeah, it definitely just depends on the rules, I think. If you want to talk about duplication or
Right.
what the rules would be if
Yeah.
you can travel to the past or the future.
Yeah, different timeline, different
Yeah.
realities.
Yeah, I definitely believe that there's multiple timelines and dimensions. So I think you would still see yourself having done something.
Yeah.
See, I like thinking of it like in Lost, where they went back to the 70s and they always were in the 70s. So in the present day,
Yeah.
they're in the picture from the 70s, and
Right.
they always were there.
Like,
Yeah.
what's it called? The movie Time Crimes.
Yeah, time frames.
That he was always there.
Yeah.
He'd always
I mean, yeah.
done that.
I mean, that's always my favorite way of time travel, but I'm also like a hard science person, so...
Yeah, it's definitely a preference because obviously time travel is not real, but you can make up different rules, so it just kind of depends on the rules and the consequences.
Time travel to the future is real, though. It's 100% real. Time dilation is a real thing. If you travel fast close to the speed of light, you will age slower than everyone else that isn't going that fast. Although in that case, you would be gone because you're traveling away. So there's no chance of you seeing yourself because you are the one that's somewhere else. So if there's no duplication, your time's going slower than everyone else's, essentially.
Cool. So I think that's the only real question for us to kind of get into. Our next episode is Hyde. Is it your choice?
Yes, it's my choice. It's actually something that was been recommended by a couple of our listeners.
Yes.
Predestination. It's a 2014 mystery sci-fi film starring Ethan Hawke. It's directed by Michael Spierig.
Michael and Peter.
That's
who
right.
also wrote it.
The
Yeah.
Spierig.
Oh, that's an I.
Spierig?
The
Spierig brothers?
yeah.
Spierig
Spierig.
brothers. So that's the film we'll be doing next.
Huh.
I'm very excited to do this film. I remember the trailers when it came out. I had not seen this movie.
I don't think I've used in a trailer for this movie, so I am going to be just going totally blind.
Yeah, me too. I don't have much knowledge of this movie. I haven't seen it. Looks like the tagline is, "To save the future, he must protect his past." To me, it sounds like Minority Report a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Maybe that's
A
how I
little bit.
feel.
The description on IMDb is the life of a time-traveling temporal agent on his final assignment. He must pursue the one criminal that has eluded him throughout time.
And obviously, Ethan Hawke. I almost said Ethan Kraft. Ethan Hawke. And yes, should we get into our social media? We are at Time Travel Trio on Twitter, Instagram. We're also on Facebook at the Time Travel Trio Podcast. We are on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. And please rate, subscribe, send us all your stuff.
Yeah, send us questions.
We're happy to get into more questions.
Yeah,
if
we'll
you guys,
either answer it on here, or we'll try to get back to you on the actual platform that you got us.
We're
at.
definitely not experts, but we've watched at this point. We've watched a lot of movies about time travel, so we can definitely theorize some stuff. Our previous episode was our first episode with a special guest. We had on the host of Zetasla podcast, Zach Heltzel, so it was really awesome getting to talk to him.
Yeah.
And thank you again, Zach, if you're listening, for doing the show with us. So, personal stuff.
I am at Foreman in Space.
On what?
Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
And you can find me at Robinson is Hyde on Twitter and Instagram as well.
And I am at Jen Marlis on those also.
And with that, we are out of time.